David, 13 points is all that separates the top 4 in the points.
It's a pretty tight battle, and it's the most competition and the most depth in the 250 class I've seen in probably 8 or 9 years.
Well, the 40 riders are getting set. You know, normally we go to commercial break, but I tell you what, the action here at Budds Creek promises to be fast and furious, very exciting. So we are going to get right down to business, David.
That's right, and you see how the bike number 114 there of Damon Bradshaw, disappointing 15th last weekend in his comeback effort. Obviously running the pace though, running up front. I think this week, as I mentioned, he'll probably be a little more consistent. Also, Mike LaRocco, his first ride back, and he picked a hot one.
Well, with LaRocco, I mean, he's been off for about 2 months. Hasn't been able to ride back into shape, right? I mean, this is going to be a real test to see just how good that practice time that he did get in before coming here has done for him.
Exactly. We heard in an interview last weekend with Damon Bradshaw that he'd been able to ride at home, but it's nothing like riding against 40 other riders.
Well, there they go up the hill. There's the start that David talked about. We'll see who gets the hole shot. Can't see from that angle right there, but a little bit of a log jam as they go into that first turn. In fact, there's one rider already down. It's number 72, and that's Bruce Stratton. He's out of Earlville, New York, but no harm, no foul. He gets going, and look at that. LaRocco immediately out front, being pursued by the Honda Red Riders. Doug Henry in second, and Jeremy McGrath is in third.
Well, what an awesome script this is. LaRocco, not known for his starts, pulls the hole shot in his first race back, followed by the 2 fastest riders on the circuit right now. Number 4, Doug Henry, only 1 point behind his teammate right there, number 3, Jeremy McGrath. They lead this series.
And you saw also number 6, Jeff Emig in there on the Yamaha. He's in 4th. A couple of riders having some problems from negotiating this turn. First one, 25 on the Honda Troy bike. That's Todd DeHoop. He's back after knee surgery. He worked as a mechanic for his brother Chad at Mount Morris. And there's factory Phil Lawrence, who's actually independent Phil Lawrence, as he gets it back up and gets started. But back up front, you've got Mike LaRocco being hotly pursued by Doug Henry.
There's no better way to come back to the action than with a hole shot. Right now, we're going to find out if LaRocco's got the endurance to run the pace of these guys.
Well, he certainly knows how to get around this track. Last year with the overall victory, in fact, David, last year LaRocco won both motos, but now it's starting to heat up. He comes back up, and Doug Henry tries an outside move over the jump. He seems to be closing in. We're in the opening lap of Moto number 1 here at Budds Creek. As you take a look at our Suzuki field summary, find your favorite rider. Back with more action after this. Welcome back to Budds Creek, Maryland. David Bailey, Art Ekman, and John Kernan along with you. Nothing has changed up front. You've still got Mike LaRocco, but he is hotly pursued by Doug Henry, Jeremy McGrath. Things are really tightening up as you see Greg Albertine standing there in the 5th spot.
And Damon Bradshaw just went by. A pretty good start for him, so he's up and running with the leaders, which is where he wants to be. And this is an interesting battle right now because LaRocco, who's missed a couple of rounds, really it doesn't factor into the points change in this title. But between the 2 riders behind him, McGrath and Henry, as it sits right now, Henry holds the points lead. So if he could make a pass right now and put LaRocco between himself and Jeremy, he could pick up quite a few points.
Well, David, not to confuse anyone watching at home, you're talking about as they're running on the course right now, points were awarded right now to Doug would actually be in front of Jeremy. Well, LaRocco is leading it right now. A lot of questions about that arm. Has it healed up? Let's check in with Art Ekman.
Mike Sr., with the great speeds that he attains on this track and all the downhill action, is that tougher on that hurt arm than it would be if it were more technical?
Yeah, it's going to be hard on him because there's a lot of hard landings here and there's a lot of jarring, but he's pretty tough. He's taking it easy. We'll see what happens. So we're not making any predictions yet.
He never makes a prediction, does he? Well, I got to ask you, David, with LaRocco coming back with the car, his father says he's taking it easy. Is he doing that just to check it out to make sure everything's okay?
Well, I'd hate to see when he's not taking it easy. He's got the fastest riders in the world right here. He's got a world champion. He's got McGrath, who I don't need to say any more about him. Emig's on the move right now. Looks like he's going to make a move on McGrath right there, and he does to the inside. And LaRocco's still holding all these guys at bay.
Now they come back down the hill. Albertine tried to go inside to try and pick off a spot from Jeremy, but just couldn't do it. Jeremy now trying along the outside. Look at that speed as they come up to jump. Jeremy almost pulling even with Emig, and now he's going to squirt ahead. And look, they're catching up with Doug Henry. It is really getting heated up here as the action for second spot. Doug Henry, Jeff Emig, then you've got Jeremy McGrath, and right behind them, the 3-time world champion, Greg Albertine.
Just a little further back, you got Damon Bradshaw. He's looking like he might move to the front. And Doug Henry here, it looked like he was challenging LaRocco in the opening lap. It looked like he was searching, had some different lines, but LaRocco has answered, and look, he's already pulled away. He's up to the top of the hill. Right now, it looks like the fastest rider on the track has got to be Emig.
Well, when you get some side-by-side racing, you're naturally going to slow down a little bit. It's a lot easier to run out there by yourself, isn't it? You have to be a little more careful when you're side-by-side.
Sure. Well, what happens here is maybe these guys are protecting their line. I know that Jeremy probably was in a position where if he would have done something different, Emig would have slid in there, which is exactly what happened. And Henry's in that same position now. If he goes and tries any extra lines, he's not close enough to move around LaRocco right now, but if he tries anything different, he leaves the door wide open and Emig can ride right through.
What do you think's going through LaRocco's mind right now? He's probably, oh, look at this. Jeremy now trying to take back that third spot. We'll get back to that thought in just a moment. But Emig manages to hold him off for the time being. Man, this is great. I guess Jeremy sees that Doug is starting to pull away just a little bit, put a little distance. And now Albertine making a move for that fourth spot. A little bit of contact. Albertine washes out and loses some ground. Man, that's great racing.
Well, this is a great battle, and to get back to LaRocco, I think that he's just glancing over his shoulder every chance he gets and reading the pit board, and he notices that these guys are all having a great battle amongst themselves. Possibly in the process they're holding up the speed, and that's allowing him to ride with a pretty good cushion at the moment.
Well, no, LaRocco in great shape, at least whenever he was riding all the time, had that little extra for the last 15 minutes of these 30-minute motos. You got to wonder if he's going to tire out toward the second half of this moto.
Well, in his I think it's to his advantage today, though. The track, as I mentioned, doesn't get that rough. It's very hot and humid, but it's not getting that rough. Great action between Jeremy and Emig right now, and Jeremy getting the upper hand.
I guess I'm going to have to quit asking you questions, because every time I ask you a question and you answer it, the action really gets great. But Jeremy makes that move. He moves along into third place as Emig now is being challenged by Albertine. Albie still trying to get all these American tracks figured out, but I've been very impressed with the way he rides this year.
He's had a chance to ride on this track before. The U.S. Grand Prix, one of the rounds came to Budds Creek, and he didn't have a very good day, so I'm sure he'd like to redeem himself. And now he's in the points battle for the national championship, so it's very important for him to stay with these leaders and just for his own confidence, to know that he can run with them and to be a threat.
So you see Jeff Emig is now in fourth place, being followed by Greg Albertine, who is in fifth place. We've got a great battle. Albertine seventh in the points currently. Of course, remember, he got off to a pretty good start second in the first moto at Gainesville, but he broke a wheel and DNF in that second moto. We are in the mid stages of moto number 1 here at Budds Creek, Maryland. Mike LaRocco continues to lead it as you get a look at the top 10 on our Suzuki Field Summary. Back at Budds Creek, Maryland, round 4 of the AMA 250cc Outdoor Motocross Series. It is an absolute scorcher out there for not only the riders, but for the fans. And you got to wonder, how long can these guys keep up this kind of pace, David, before they tire out?
Well, I think they're all going to tire at the same time. Then it's just going to come down to guts and digging a little deeper. As we came back from the break, Emig went over that plateau, and in the air, he looked over to see where the leaders are. So he wants to go to the front.
Well, Emig right now running in fourth place. Albertine is in fifth. The leader continues to be Mike LaRocco, with Doug Henry trying to close ground. But here's the action for that fourth spot down the hill. The right-hand turn, and look at Emig. Looks like Albertine's not trying to different line there. He just tried to stay in his line.
Maybe he's trying to learn from Emig. Emig's looking ahead to see where those guys are. He's not looking behind them, and I've seen him do that before, look behind, and that's usually showing weakness or, geez, how many more positions can I lose before I can relax? And Emig's looking ahead, so possibly, although McGrath was able to repass him, he hasn't given up yet.
Well, look at Albertine now. He tries to go outside and then cut it back underneath, but Emig gets a good bite off the berm. But now here comes Albie. Albie to the outside, lays it down over the jump. Albertine momentarily takes over the fourth spot as Emig, I don't know, Emig slows way down right there. I wonder if he's starting to pump up, but no, now Emig gets on the gas hard over it, side by side, up this jump. Now they'll go into that left-hander. We move back up front. As you see, Doug Henry has closed in on Mike LaRocco, and Jeremy McGrath is not too far behind.
Well, it looks like Doug and Jeremy both have settled into the pace that they're capable of running, which is at least as fast as LaRocco, maybe a little quicker. They have closed the gap. I don't think it's LaRocco starting to tire at this early in the race. I think that both Henry and McGrath have picked up the pace, and this is going to get good. It looks like they've left Emig and Albertine now. Those guys have apparently dropped off the pace, or apparently they're running the same pace. And like I said, two Honda guys are going fast.
Well, you got to look back at Emig and Albertine. Those guys, a lot of side-by-side racing, and you know that slows you down quite a bit, and it allows these guys running in single file to kind of just move right on ahead. As you look back, here we go about a 3.5, 4 second separation. And look, Mike Kudrowski, who got off to not a great start. We saw him maybe mid-pack. He has worked his way up into the 6th position, and he may be challenging for that 5th spot in the top 5. Of course, Kudrowski winning the overall out at Hangtown. And you saw Emig look off to his side. He's once again trying to keep those leaders in sight.
Well, it seems that way. He's just passed through the mechanics area after they come down the hill, and he's looking over already. So maybe the time on the board, Emig's going, no, that can't be right. He's looking over to find out, and he's actually losing quite a bit of time.
Well, Emig right now has his hands full. Albertine is moving in, trying to take over that 4th spot, and also Kudrowski is riding along in 6th. He promises to make this battle, this 3-bike battle, very interesting. Down the hill they come. Let's see if Albertine follows the same line as Emig this time, or if he learns something. No, stays right there as Kudrowski does too.
It looks like the inside berm is a lot more braking bumps getting into it. It's difficult to get out of there. It's kind of rough. So the riders are elected to go through the middle there. Those berms will get rougher every lap. And you've got to remember, when you go through a berm or anywhere on the racetrack where it's starting to get rougher, 40 more guys come through there before you get a chance to come around again. So they make a mental note of that, and they'll make an adjustment. If the berm's getting pushed wide, if they can remember, they'll hit it early and try to get out.
Back up front, the battle now for 2nd place, Doug Henry and his teammate Jeremy McGrath. These two separated by only 1 point heading into today's action in the race for the national championship. And David, I believe they are closing in on LaRocco. Henry has really narrowed that gap.
Well, I think LaRocco is... I don't think he's capable of going much faster than he's going. Otherwise, he would have been able to respond. Right now, I think the Honda guys are just going quite a bit faster, and Doug right here looks really strong.
Well, Doug knows his way around this track. Last year, he was 3rd overall. Of course, that was on a 125. He's coming off of his first national win in the 250cc series. How much confidence do you think he's got right now?
Well, I think he's got quite a bit. Now the Supercross season's over. He can focus completely on the outdoors. He's only 1 point shy of the points lead, so he's got to be feeling good.
Well, he's doing really well right now. Let's check into his pit with Art Ekman.
Hey, what a great battle we've got going for the 1st place pocket.
Oh yeah, you can see it as plain as I can see it, and it's not over yet. We've got 3 guys trying to chase down the first Moto win, but I can't tell you who's going to come out on top.
This is such a speedy track. One little mistake could really could not only put you out for 1 moto, but could put you out for 2.
Yeah, I see some guys falling and they have a hard time recovering. But maybe one thing that we've got an advantage, Doug and Jeremy, is they've been racing a little bit in LaRocco. He's been sitting out for at least a month and a half.
Back out on the track, trouble for Mike Kudrowski. He's looking at that front wheel.
I don't know what it could be, a front flat maybe. No, it's not a flat. I don't know what it is. He's obviously nervous about it, and he's definitely dropped off the pace. And remember right there in LaRocco, the first race broke a front hub, so I don't think Kudrowski's going to be too aggressive if he's got something going wrong up there he's not sure about.
Well, Kudrowski just moved up into the 6th spot, contending for the top 5, but he drops out of the top 10 as you look at our Suzuki Field summary. Back with more in a moment. Back at Budds Creek, Maryland, Moto number 1, and getting set for Mike Kudrowski to come in, and they're going to do a little repair work on that front wheel.
Well, it's not uncommon in car racing to see a guy come in and with a problem and get back out with a caution, possibly get back into the race. Right here, this is devastating for Kudrowski in terms of the points, and there's some plastic hanging off the fork leg right there. That may have damaged the wheel, I don't know.
Well, Kudrowski in the pits right now, costing a lot of time. Let's check in with Art Ekman and find out exactly what the problem is.
Ryan, what was the problem now with Mike's bike?
Well, when he tried to pass Albertine over here in the corner after the finish line, Albertine ran into him. So what happened was he thought the front wheel was broke. What it turned out, it was one of the fork guards. So the guys ran back and got some wheels, but it turned out when he got here, all it was a fork guard.
Good luck.
But I guess all it does is makes a little noise, right?
Well, he wasn't sure. I mean, I guess it would have sounded like a cart in the spokes, kind of like a bicycle, but I'm sure it's not funny for these guys. It didn't turn out to be as serious, though, as he thought, and he was able to get back to the action pretty quickly.
He dropped probably 10, 15 spots maybe. Now you get a look up front. Actually, second place, Doug Henry with that double right there is leading Jeremy McGrath. Jeremy still hasn't been able to do anything with Doug. And Morocco, meanwhile, has pulled away from these two.
Well, you can see Morocco way up the track there and has pulled out quite a bit of lead. These guys closed in on him, and I'm not sure if they have possibly dropped off the pace or if Morocco has responded with some speed of his own, but he's definitely opened it up.
I'll tell you, from the looks of things right now, Doug Henry certainly knows what he's talking about. He's riding along in second place, but look at Jeremy McGrath. He has closed in Jeremy as we're getting into the second portion of Moto number 1. He's trying to make a bid. He tries a different line on the outside, swoops it back in off the berm, but he just can't make the move. Now they get ready to come down the hill. McGrath on the outside. Doug Henry gets a little better traction coming off of that jump as he moves back out into that second spot. Meanwhile, back up front, there's Morocco. You get a good look at the separation. And man, these two Honda teammates are getting ready to do some serious battle out there.
Well, I think what's going to happen now is Jeremy's pretty clever. He just stayed in the race, stayed within contact and inside of the leader, and not really tried to do anything. But now it's obvious he's picked up the pace, and he's going to start making his move. And what that's going to do is it's going to force Henry to go a little faster, maybe to make a mistake. But I think either way, both these guys are going to catch Morocco.
Well, Morocco riding out by himself, nobody pushing him, and now McGrath putting a serious push on Doug Henry. They'll come into this turn and go back up the hill. McGrath still in hot pursuit, but Doug Henry managing to hold him off right now. They both do the double in front of the fans. McGrath picking up just a little bit of ground as they come into this turn. Jeremy is really pressuring his teammate.
Jeremy's going inside, he's going outside, he's trying different lines, and that's the only way you can make the pass. The other thing you can do too, even if you don't really make up much time, you make the rider in front of you nervous.
Well, there you get a good look as Morocco leads our Suzuki Field Summary. Back with more from Budds Creek after this. Thank you. That's Art Ekman. He's down in the pits. David Bailey, John Brennan up here in the booth. We're watching the battle heat up for second place in the closing stages here. Moto number 1 at Budds Creek, Maryland. It looks like Jeremy's dropped off just a little bit. You think he's going to search out some lines and try to put a move on Doug on maybe the last lap?
Well, it takes a lot of energy to make a move like that. And yeah, I think he's going to try something on the last lap, if not sooner. But what happens is you make a push and you ride just a little bit out of your comfort zone, and you're also in that roost, and it takes so much energy. You got to save some for the second moto. So he'll probably run in there and make a bid. If he can't make anything happen, drop back, kind of regroup, and try and go in there again.
Speaking of regrouping, Jeff Emig and Greg Albertine, remember they had lost a lot of ground to McGrath and Henry, but they're starting to close in. They've picked up the pace. They're not battling so much side by side for this fourth spot. They're in the line trying to catch up, it looks like.
Well, it looks like they have. They've closed the gap a little bit, but they're kind of locked into their own battle, and Doug and Jeremy are pretty far up the track.
Jeff Emig last year on a 125 here at Budds Creek finished in second overall. Get a good look back at Albertine. Albie trying to figure things out here, trying to get the right lines. He's followed Emig around and found out what Emig feels are the fastest lines. And now look at Albie. He tries to make it on the inside as Emig swings way outside Albertine. For a moment, I thought he had him as they come back down the hill, nearly side by side. But Emig on the Yamaha pulls away just a little bit from that Suzuki.
Well, maybe Albertine's best trick is to run into his bike and break that plastic front fork guard. That worked before.
Now Albertine trying now. Oh, look at that. A little bit of a wheel on the rear fender of Emig, but Emig keeps the bike up. Albie backs out of the throttle, and now Emig squirts away. What a great battle for fourth place. You'd think these guys were battling for the lead.
Well, in defense to Albertine, I mean, he's not riding dirty, but that's on this track, everyone's pretty much going the same pace, and like I said, it's not really that rough. So there's a fast line out there, and there's nowhere really else that they can go and make up time. So you just got to go in there and sort of push them out of the way. And that's what worked for Albertine so far. He's trying it on Emig, but Emig will not budge.
Once again, this is battle for fourth place. Jeff Emig in fourth. Greg Albertine, the three-time world champion, riding along in fifth. I think a lot of casual motocross fans, when they heard that a three-time world champion was coming over to the United States to race, figured that Albertine would run away with everything. But he's found the American riders, they're not too shabby.
No, they're pretty good. I mean, he started off the season looking good. He led almost the entire first moto of this championship series with Morocco breathing down his neck, and it looked like he was going to be a real threat. And look at Damon Bradshaw now. He's caught these two. apparently, we just brought up the fact that they're going fast. They pick up their pace and moved in on the Honda riders, and Bradshaw's catching everybody.
Well, you got to wonder how long it's going to take Bradshaw to get back into form. Well, I wondered that about Mike LaRocco at the top, and LaRocco already looks like he's back into form, but he was only off a couple of months versus almost 2 years for Damon Bradshaw, who's now moved into the 6th position and looks like he wants to challenge Albie for that 5th spot.
Well, it looks like he's definitely closing. He's closing fast, and for LaRocco, it looks like he should take time off more often. He doesn't usually get that good a start and ride this well. He did well here last year, but I really didn't expect him to do as well, and I'm actually really surprised that he's still out front.
Well, LaRocco doing a great job in his return. Of course, he's doing such a great job that he has no action around him. That's why you're not seeing a lot of LaRocco right now. He is pulled away from Doug Henry, who's riding along in 2nd place. Well, no, actually, look at this. Now they've caught him, I believe. LaRocco might have slowed down a little bit, and Henry and McGrath might have sped up as they have closed the gap. Probably cut it just about. Oh, my gosh, down the hill, Doug Henry. A major crash at the bottom of this jump, and Doug flips off the goggles, and oh my goodness, looks to be in a lot of pain. There comes one of the corner workers over.
I can't believe what I just saw.
That was unbelievable. Down all the way to the bottom. Doug Henry obviously in a lot of pain. Do you see one of the AMA officials with the flag to make sure that they direct the bikes away to keep Doug Henry safe, but that was just unbelievable.
Let's see if we can figure out what happened. It looks like he falls to the rear of the bike and just grabbed a handful of throttle right there. Look at how high in the air.
And then the compression as he lands, flips over, and rolls, and that absorbs some of the impact, but that landing.
I've been around motocross my whole life, and I've never seen anything quite like that. I guess on the brighter side, he seems to be moving on his own. That's a good sign. You can see his shadow right there behind LaRocco.
Oh, look how much farther he does the jump. Oh,
I think he did the right thing by staying on the motorcycle. I imagine that was, I can't figure out how that happened. I know he didn't do that on purpose, but it might have been a natural reaction to just throw the bike away, but by staying on it, he got another foot of travel that helped absorb that impact. That's the most amazing impact I've ever seen.
And he did roll, and that absorbs a little more of the impact, and he was moving, and it looked like one of the safety workers who talked to him, so it looks like Doug was alert, but we certainly want to keep an eye on that situation. Is there you get a shot, and Doug's moving his hands, getting ready to take his gloves off. That is a good sign, but obviously he's in a lot of pain, and we do not want to speculate about this, but just that landing, that was just terrible. One of the worst things I've ever seen.
Well, LaRocco has no idea what's going on behind him. He's just excited to be leading his first moto, coming back from a broken arm, and McGrath was right behind, saw that entire sequence, and has to be, I think that has to mess with his head a little bit. I mean, to go up and race with LaRocco right now is probably the last thing on his mind. I'm sure, and I know Jeremy enough to know he's got to be concerned with his teammate, and look at that, Emig has already closed the gap.
But he's not going to have enough time around the last turn. There's LaRocco to take the checkered flag. Jeremy McGrath is 2nd. Jeff Emig, a fine ride, closes to finish in the 3rd position. But what a return for the defending champion. Missed 2 outdoor nationals, nearly 2 months of competitive action. But Mike LaRocco comes back to win Moto #1, followed by McGrath, Emig, Albertine, and Bradshaw. And as you take a look at the rest of the top 10, Art Ekman has caught up with our winner.
Mike LaRocco, a perfect track to come back off the injured list, that's for sure, after sweeping 2 last year and getting the good start this year.
Yeah, it feels good to be back on a bike. I've been waiting a long time. My injury kind of, screwed me up for a while and got me down, but, I planned on it for 2 or 3 weeks coming back here at Butts Creek, and, I want to get the whole shot and lead every lap, and that's what I did. I feel good.
Updating you on Doug Henry, still out on the track. Safety personnel are working with him. Art Ekman is standing by with his teammate.
Jeremy, first of all, you were the closest to the action, but I'm not sure what you saw about Doug Henry flying through the air.
Well, he made a mistake in the corner before that, kind of slid out over that double, cased it, and I come up right beside him on the right-hand side, and we both brake together, and then all of a sudden, he just gassed it. And, I couldn't believe he was on the throttle at all. I mean, that's the biggest jump on the track, and, he must have flew 60 feet in the air. And, I was amazed. I just watched him through the air the whole way, and I knew if he saved that one, he was definitely a hero, but I hope he's all right.
Well, there you see Doug Henry's on the backboard, and look at that, the thumbs up as he shows the fans.